I want to say thank you to the members of St. Benedict's Abbey for this honor. In a note from the abbot notifying me of this honor, he described me as a friend of the Abbey. That comment brought back a lifetime of memories I'd like to share with you of the monks I have known at the Abbey. A day after I was born, I was baptized by one of the monks from the Abbey, and I grew up in a parish founded and begun by St. Benedict's Abbey monks and staffed by the Benedictine monks in a little burg just north of Seneca, Kansas, and it had to be called St. Benedict. I was educated there for 8 years by the Benedictine sisters and 4 years at Mar Hill and 4 years at St. Benedict's College by the monks of St. Benedict's Abbey. My wife Anne enjoyed 16 years of education from the Benedictine sisters in grade school, high school, and Mount St. Scholastica College in Atchison. 8 of our children have experienced Benedictine education in grade school, Mar Hill, Mount Academy, Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas. At Mar Hill and at St. Benedict's College, almost all my teachers were monks from the Abbey. Let me tell you about a few of the characters of the Abbey at that time. Father Benedict was a really good teacher, but he was all business. Somehow, his foot would always hit the floor inside the classroom at the same instant the bell went off to start class. The prayer, and by the time he reached his desk, the prayer before class started, and those who were still reading sports page or talking, when he was finished with the prayer, he would suggest that maybe they'd like to take the class next semester when they had more time for it. Father Gervais was a very good teacher who would sometimes practice his golf swing in an effort to keep our attention as he covered Dante's Inferno in our world literature class. At the same time, walking down the hall, you might hear retired Father Sylvester Smith playing a German zither in his office. Brother Robert used his big grain truck, and he gave students a ride to the stadium to watch St. Benedict's College football across town. On a slow Sunday afternoon, one of the monks might invite you to have some fresh popcorn in a little popcorn hut in the area of the Abbey Gardens. Besides teaching at St. Benedict's College and at Mar Hill and Benedictine, some of the monks cared for the chickens, the grounds, and the gardens. Other monks kept the plumbing and other utilities operating in the Abbey and college buildings. In my last semester at Benedictine College, I needed 2 more political science classes to graduate, and I had already taken all but one of those being offered. I approached Father Gerard Mesmer with this problem, and he proceeded to prepare a new class, a new course just for me so I could get my required hours and graduate on time. The monk who had the most impact on me was Father Brendan Downey, later to become Abbot Brendan Downey. He was a full-time teacher in the English department while he lived in the dorm and managed the students in Memorial Hall. The Abbey Church had just completed a new church, and all the students were required to attend the 11 a.m. daily Mass. My last semester, I found myself assigned to do some practice teaching at Atchison High School during this daily Mass schedule time. Living in Memorial Hall at the time, I approached Father Brendan with my problem, and he smiled and told me I should just knock on his door every morning at 6 o'clock, go down to get the altar ready in the basement of our hall, and for the entire semester, he got up, came down, said Mass just for me, then went back to his room. Most impressive to me was that his attitude and demeanor indicated he was happy to do it. What a great friend and mentor he became for me. This is just one example of the generous spirit of one monk, but that one monk helped teach a particular student a lifetime lesson about cheerful service to other people. Father Anthony Rileyman, who was one of my teachers in Mar Hill High School, and when I finished college, he was our pastor for St. Benedict's Church there. He was aware that I grew up in a little rural parish in which everybody was of German ancestry, just north of Seneca, Kansas. And I was engaged to Anne, and her father was born in Ireland, and all of her family were of Irish ancestry. When Father Anthony told us he had all the arrangements made for our German and Irish marriage were now complete, he paused, and then with a big grin on his face, he said, "I should probably find one of my cousins up in the Abbey to marry us, as he didn't do mixed marriages." That was his nice way of saying, "I'm sure you want your cousin to marry you, and that's okay with me as your pastor." A few years later, I was teaching high school and was a part-time graduate student at KU. Father Brendan became the chaplain of the Newman Center at KU. Anne and I, with 2, 3, or 4 children at that time, looked forward to the times Father Brendan might knock on our door to see if there was any breakfast left after he finished his last Mass at the Newman Center on Sundays. Father Brendan would, as the eldest of 10 children, would walk in, take the baby and bottle from my wife's arms, and finish feeding the baby while she made him breakfast. And then the 3 of us would catch up with all what was going on. He eventually even began to invite our family to the Downey family reunions. And you felt so much a part of that family and so accepted. In the summer of 1970, Anne and I moved our family back to Atchison so I could begin working for St. Benedict's Abbey as the Dean of Students at Benedictine College. And the generosity of the monks continued in many ways. It would not be unusual to find a box of tomatoes, some corn, vegetables from the Abbey gardens on our porch with a little note from Brother Tony, Brother John, or Brother Robert Hyman, and saying, "We have more than we need today." At the same time, my cousin, Father Wilfred Fangman, who was one of my teachers at Mar Hill, was assigned as the pastor of our parish at St. Benedict's Church. Father Blaine, who was a fellow student at Mar Hill and a longtime friend of the family, even endured a long vacation to Florida and back with Anne and I and some of our very young children, and he was still talking to us when we got back. We have enjoyed his company and his talents as he played the organ at a number of our children's weddings. Father Bertrand Ledoux visited us regularly at our home, and he taught many of our children and officiated at the marriages of a number of our children. I worked with Father Gerard Senecal for 15 years and when he was president of Benedictine College, and I continued to have a friendship with him when he became our pastor at St. Benedict's Parish. Just as Abbot Brendan Downey did, the monks now continue the same pattern of friendship, generous mentoring with the current students and graduates today. Their acts of Benedictine charity supported and inspired me, and I'm sure similar examples will continue to inspire others going forward. I accept this honor also on behalf of my wife Anne, who died in 1997. As many of you know, she was a very strong woman. She was utterly honest, direct, and at the same time a very kind and caring person. She always put the good of her family and her friends before her own. Anne was active in our parish and was president of the parish council and the school board. She was really my best advisor. Anne cared deeply for the monks of St. Benedict's Abbey and was a trusted friend to many of them over the years. Over the lifetime, and particularly the last 45 years, I've been blessed to have the monks as my pastors, classmates, confessors, teachers, advisors, co-workers, and friends. So again, I say thank you to a house full of friends at St. Benedict's Abbey. Thank you.